Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to thank my honourable colleague for his opening remarks. It is truly disheartening that we find ourselves at this crossroads here today, particularly when there are so many other pressing issues that should unite the collective focus of all honourable members in this House. Instead, our attention is once again turned inward, overshadowed by infighting, arguments, point scoring, and a tendency to undermine each other at every opportunity. And the public outside is acutely aware of this. Over the past couple of years, there have been murmurs of discontent amongst backbench members, as well as from ministers who have stepped down from Council of Ministers for various reasons. And I have more reason than most in this House to press the green button at the end of this debate here today, especially given the anguish and the hurt that the Chief Minister inflicted upon my family and my friends and myself personally during 2022 and 23. Mr. Speaker, in the past 7 years, I've sat in this chamber directly across from my colleague, Mr. Cannon, the Honourable Member for Ayr and Michael. And on a number of occasions over the past 2 years, I have longed for just one opportunity, like the one being presented today, to be able to remove the current Chief Minister from office. However, I have consistently sought to maintain a fair, open and honest approach amongst politics. And for that reason, I must express my serious concerns in respect of the motion being tabled by my colleague from Arbury, Castletown and Malone, Mr. Glover. The motion on the order paper here today isn't right or justified, and I will explain the reason why. Firstly, the motion on the order paper casts a spotlight on the role of the Chief Minister, as well as my colleague Mr. Cannon personally, rather than addressing the overall poor performance of the Council of Ministers at times, and on the individual performance of some ministers over the past 3 years. I also believe it is vitally important that we pause just for a moment to reflect on the political environment and the numerous challenges we have encountered over the past 3 years. Since October 2021, we have witnessed significant global economic pressures impacting businesses, government services, and household budgets alike. Let us also take a moment to recall that when the Chief Minister and the Council of Ministers were first appointed in October 2021, our collective energy and focus as a group of elected members were directed toward economic recovery, protecting jobs, securing investment, and providing ongoing support for essential businesses and our local community. It can be difficult at times to remember the extent of the economic and social damage caused by COVID-19. However, as an island, we have recovered better than many other comparable jurisdictions. We also have to face the additional challenges following Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, which had far-reaching effects on food prices and the supply of various crops and products reaching the UK and here in the Isle of Man. This conflict also significantly impacted the price of natural gas in Europe, leading to an increase of 7 or 8 times the normal price within a short period over the 2 last winters. And the increase in the price of natural gas also affected domestic and business electricity tariffs here on the island. Even today, we currently are experiencing an ongoing crisis in the Middle East, which is further influencing global supply chains, inflation and economic confidence. Mr. Speaker, none of us here today can predict how this situation will resolve or the extent of economic damage that may follow should tensions in the Middle East escalate further. Governments across the world have grappled with these same challenges over the past 4 years. And as elected members in this House, we are acutely aware of the considerable pressure being felt by businesses throughout the island at this time. More importantly, our constituents are telling us that they too are facing significant financial pressure at the moment. And I get that message very clearly. The political landscape across the UK and the Channel Islands have also undergone significant changes over the past 4 or 5 years. Our colleagues in Jersey and Guernsey have recently appointed new chief ministers. And in Westminster, the UK has seen a change in Prime Minister no fewer than 4 times since 2019. The potential change of Chief Minister here in the Isle of Man will undoubtedly bring joy to some and frustration to others. However, I genuinely believe the majority of island residents want us, as honourable members of this House, to focus on the responsibilities for which we're elected and to serve the best interests of the people of this island. Mr. Speaker, I have had the privilege and honour of serving in what can only be described as 2 remarkably different administrations since 2016. Unfortunately, this current administration has been plagued by internal conflicts, personal disputes, and a focus on individual projects and agendas, rather than concentrating all of our efforts on policies that will actually bring about meaningful change for the people of this island. As we look ahead to the next 2 years before the next House of Keys general election in 2026, it is imperative that we find a way forward and we start to focus on policies rather than personalities. Mr. Speaker, I have given careful consideration to the wording of the motion on the order paper regarding the vote of no confidence in the Chief Minister. And more importantly, I have examined the language used. And when I think about this, the clearer my conclusions become. What is my colleague from Arbury, Castletown and Maloo, Mr. Glover, actually seeking to achieve by tabling this motion here today? If Mr. Glover's intention was to grab a quick media headline, well, he has certainly succeeded in that over the past week. However, he must also recognise that our actions in this chamber have ramifications that extend far beyond our corridors of this Parliament, or the corridors of this Parliament. It has an impact on our constituents, on inward investment, and the ability to attract core skills and those professionals that we need here on the island to succeed, all for the sake of a 5-minute media headline. Mr. Speaker, I say that only because this motion is non-statutory and therefore non-binding. Even if the motion receives 13 votes from this House here today, there is no obligation for the Chief Minister to resign. Therefore, we must seriously question the motive behind the original motion on the order paper. And you have to also question why my colleague from Arbury, Castletown and Maloo, Mr. Glover, tabling the motion, has tabled a motion that is non-binding motion, aimed personally at the Chief Minister, instead of actually tabling a formal motion against the Council of Ministers in accordance with Section 2(3)(b) of the Council of Ministers Act 1990, which states the Chief Minister shall hold office until a sitting of the House of Keys, at which time a resolution is passed by affirmative vote of at least 13 members of the House of Keys, stating it has no confidence in the Council of Ministers. Again, this motion appears to be focused on personalities and not policies. Mr. Speaker, at the heart of today's debate is whether we have confidence in the current Chief Minister and whether he possesses the leadership style and judgment necessary to guide the islands over the next 2 years. To help answer that question, I did revisit Mr. Cannon's Chief Minister manifesto from his 2021 election. In that document, he says that, contrary to popular belief, the Chief Minister of the Isle of Man is not an autocratic position, but one that relies on a collective of individuals brought together in the form of both Tynwald and the Council of Ministers to deliver a better future for our island. He also mentioned the role of the Chief Minister is to provide clear leadership in order to bring out the best in the Council of Ministers and to fulfil the priorities determined by Tynwald. These are two very powerful statements that clearly convey and set out the intention of my colleague from Aaron Michael back in 2021. However, I do feel that the Chief Minister of the Isle of Man Sorry, Mr. Speaker, I'll start again. However, I do feel that as the Chief Minister of the Isle of Man, he has seriously let down by several ministers over the past 3 years. He has also failed to grasp the nettle on a number of occasions when changing personalities within the Council of Ministers' makeup was most needed to help reset, refocus and rebuild confidence that the public, investors and businesses urgently sought. Even today, some of his ministers seem unable to effectively manage their departments and portfolios, failing to address significant issues in finance, infrastructure, connectivity, immigration, healthcare, transport, and other pressing issues facing this island. If the Chief Minister cannot swiftly address these concerns, then we may find ourselves back here early next year, where a motion of no confidence in the Council of Ministers collectively could be more successful. The current Chief Minister, Mr. Cannon, also pledged to ensure that all political voices and opinions would be heard and treated with respect, even in disagreement. Unfortunately, I don't believe he has fulfilled that promise over the past 3 years either. Several of my colleagues would argue that the Chief Minister has failed to listen to all honourable members and has not made sufficient efforts to unite this House collectively to deliver an effective plan for the island. At times, the Chief Minister, along with his closest political and administrative advisers, have been reluctant to confront reality or implement the necessary changes in a timely manner. That said, I don't believe all the responsibility should be placed on the shoulders of the Chief Minister or even the Council of Ministers. Every honourable member in this House should reflect on their own contributions over the past 3 years, as I'm not entirely convinced that we're doing enough individually to help address the significant challenges our island is facing. Although our Parliament may be small, strong leadership is a essential quality for any Chief Minister of the Isle of Man. It is crucial not only for navigating the challenges we encounter today, but also for those that lie ahead tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, do I believe my colleague from Aaron Michael, Mr. Cannon, is the right person to lead the Isle of Man through these challenging times? Well, I certainly supported him in his campaign for Chief Minister in 2016 and again in 2021. We must also remember that good leadership comes in many forms, and as political leaders, we each have our own unique style, and there is certainly no manual or formula to create the perfect leader. I still personally genuinely believe that the current Chief Minister speaks with confidence and passion when representing the best interests of the Isle of Man. He's also shown greater transparency and openness compared to many of his predecessors. In closing, I will not be supporting the motion on the order paper today. Not because I believe the current Chief Minister is perfect. He has his faults just like the rest of us. I'm voting against the motion simply because it is misguided and it is the wrong motion on the order paper. My colleague from Arbury, Castletown and Maloo, Mr. Glover, has focused too much on individual personalities rather than the overall performance of the Council of Ministers over the last 3 years. That said, if the Chief Minister, Mr. Cannon, receives the support of the House today, I hope he will seriously reflect upon some of the statements made by his political colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.